This is Gareth from Lightrise Consulting. I'm going to go through in this short video a few tips and tricks. So, when you are a small company and you're thinking about setting up, so maybe there's one, two of you, maybe you've started in contracting, you're thinking about expanding out, what are the sorts of things that you need to be thinking about? So, here's a quick slide 6 points of some key things that we felt would be useful to share. So, one thing is it's all good thinking now I'll have my own company and it's going to generate some money and I'll be a millionaire and I'll go off to the beach or whatever you want to do, whatever your dreams are. But you really should be thinking about what type of company as well that you want to create. What is the culture that you want in that create in that company? And it might seem a little bit strange doing this with only a few people around, but the earlier you do these things and establish them in your policies, your procedures, the way that you set up things like your team site, your backgrounds on your calls, all of that sort of thing, it all forms part of company culture. Um, what is your purpose? What are you doing this for? Is it just to get out of the company at some point so you can get your desert island, or is it something else? What is the purpose? What are the values and the mission of that company? So when does it make sense to scale? Well, every company is different, but for us, we only start looking at this when we've got 95 to 100% certainty. Now, that's not to say it won't change in the future, but that seems like a reasonable um, percentage of risk to accept. And that's ultimately what you're doing as you're building a business. You're thinking about all the different risks and how you can mitigate those and create them, opportunities out of them. And then you want to be thinking about, well, what type of organization are we going to have? And this really does depend on each geography that you're in. But in the UK, we've got open-ended contracts. So what might be called permanent contracts. We've got fixed-term contracts, so they'll have an end date on them for a period of time. 0 hours, although they're kind of being phased out a little bit, where there's no obligation to provide any hours, but a really sort of flexible contingent workforce. Some people might resonate with those terms. Are you going to use volunteers? Can you make relationships with local schools and provide work experience placements and those sorts of things? And what about internships as well? So people that are further along ahead in their education, what can you do to help them and help each other through your growth? The 6P rule. Now, this doesn't always work, so don't beat yourself up if you don't always stick to it. But proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. There is a 7P rule as well, which people like the SAS like to use, but really it's just a swear word and doesn't add a lot to it. Get in place the communications. How are you going to communicate with people? Like we said earlier, is that going to be on a team site? Is it going to be on other well-known vendors out there? What is your pay structures going to be? And it's a lot easier to think about these early rather than later, particularly if you're thinking about scaling up. What are your procedures? What are your planning approaches? What are your policies? Do you have an employee handbook? And how are you going to keep all of those things up to date? There are professional institutions out there which will provide you a springboard to some of these. So in the UK, the CIPD is one of them. There are other legal firms out there which will provide you with templates around this to enable you to essentially take a rapid step forwards in terms of creating your company. And then, once you've got all of this good preparation in place, and you need to have that in place, there are legal implications around it. Prior to that person starting with your company, what does a welcome look like? And I always like to say, treat others as you want to be treated yourself. It's that simple, really. What does it look like if you put yourself in the shoes of that person coming into your organization? What does it look like from their perspective for things to be good. Now, it doesn't need to be perfect on day one, because that would be quite a step forwards in humanity if anyone was able to achieve perfection from day one. But at least make sure it is of a standard which you would accept yourself. And step 6 here, just to wrap up, people are your greatest asset. There is no business in the world that I can think of where people, even if it's one or two people, do not make up the most important parts of an organization. So create an experience that recognizes that we are all human, but manage your risks. And I've said here, actually, they are your shared risks, because as a business, you can't afford to pay people if you haven't got business coming in the door. It's sadly that simple. There is no magic money tree, despite what governments have talked about those in the past. But it's also their risk, because more importantly, you are intrinsically involved in the management of people's lives by being an employer. And you need to be very transparent, I would suggest, in your decision-making processes around contracts, how you're maybe using some of these mechanisms around things like fixed-term contracts, whether there are changes to job descriptions. All of that should be current, kept up to date, and transparent throughout the length of your tenure. Pay should be properly processed in line with geographical legislation. So there's a lot of responsibilities here, but at the end of it all, it is a person whom you are responsible for, and you should do that with the highest duty of care. But that's not to end on things like that. I mean, this is a really good little template for bringing things together. And oh my goodness, my throat's going. I need a cup of tea. Hang on a second. That's better. Right. This is a really good template, as I was saying, for just summarizing a few of the steps that you might want to go through in terms of your thought process as you're building a small business up from the ground. Reach out if you've got any questions. But hopefully this has been helpful, and look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.